Welcome to the C21 Canada AI Leadership Series, where we explore how leaders across education are shaping the future of learning and responsible human-centered AI. I'm your host, Robert Margolacci, co-founder and CEO of C21 Canada. And today I'm delighted to be joined by Dr. Carrie Ewart, who is an assistant professor at Wilfrid Laurier University, Faculty of Education, proudly where my kids graduated from. Great university. Carrie's work alongside Dr. Julie Mueller, professor of cognitive science and technology integration, is helping lead the AIME project, advancing ethical, inclusive AI integration and teacher education, as part of the C21 Dell AI use case project. The conversation is especially timely as Carrie and her colleagues are preparing to host the upcoming symposium on teaching and learning in the age of AI on March 26th. And it's a virtual event, and I believe you could still register. Bringing together educators, students, and leaders to explore how AI is reshaping teaching and learning and mental health and education. Together, they are addressing the critical challenge, how we prepare future educators to engage with AI in ways that are ethical, equitable, and grounded in strong pedagogical practice. Dr. Ewart, thank you for joining me this afternoon.
Thank you so much for having me. I'd love to be here.
What a fascinating time to be in education, and kudos for you for being and Dr. Mueller for being part of the C21 Dell Technology AI use case project. It's one of the few initiatives countrywide in the world currently taking place, and kudos to you for your leadership in advancing teacher education, because that has not been consistent. There's pockets of innovation across the country, I'd like to say. So remarkable work that you're doing. Your AIME project begins with a clear problem of practice, that AI literacy wasn't meaningful embedded in teacher education. What did you and Dr. Mueller observe that made this gap so urgent?
Well, I think the biggest gap, that urgent gap, was that AI was really reshaping teaching. So in the past, we've seen it reshape in finance, we've seen it reshaping business, but for the first time, we were starting to see it really take an impact and have an impact on teaching, reshaping both pedagogy as well as assessment and really professional identity. But the problem was our teacher education across Canada, really, not just at Laurier, it wasn't really responding, or if it was doing so in very fragmented ways. And so Julie and I observed the existing coursework, different workshops, and scattered frameworks that were being used intermittently by different people, maybe a couple of people coming together. But we thought that this wasn't enough, definitely in the teacher education program, that AI literacy, as well as the fluency and the meaningfulness across the program, it just wasn't quite there, and it wasn't quite established. And the biggest piece, we found some gaps in the way that we honored culture, Indigenous knowledge systems, other knowledge systems, to strengthen that ethical disposition for really responsible use. So in recognizing this, we saw that there was a great thirst for this, both on the faculty side of it all, as well as on the student side of it all. And we saw that everybody were at differentiating or different starting points, I suppose, in that different entry points in what they understood about AI, for AI in education, as well as educational AI. And so we thought that this was a really timely aspect and time to start with, we call it the AIME or AIME, and creating this really comprehensive, holistic, both framework as well as model, which we call the architecture of it all.
Fascinating. You emphasize that this work isn't about adding AI tools into courses, but transforming teacher education itself. What does that shift look like in practice?
Absolutely. I think so much we look at things as a very tool-centric mindset. And I need to learn the tool. This is a really cool tool. I want to implement it. But in fact, we needed to look at it from both a pedagogical as well as an institutional architecture. So AIME isn't really asking which tool should we add or which tool should we use. It's about looking at how are we designing learning environments, where AI is used in adaptive, inclusive, culturally responsive, and literate ways through this ethically evolving nature. And so that allowed us to look at a cross-section of our courses in mind mapping. I'm so sorry. It's looking at the mind mapping of all of the different courses that we are involved in and that we're shaping within AI education across all of Laurier, especially in the Faculty of Education. And we started looking at our assessments, our faculty development, our practicum experiences, so sending students out onto practicum, our policy and alignment, and really our knowledge mobilization. And so that meant that teacher candidates weren't just simply learning about AI and how to use AI, they were actually learning to evaluate whether AI should or should not be used, how it should be used in meaningful and ethically producing context, and under what conditions and what safeguards.
Remarkable. AIME is grounded in equity, ethical assessment, and community-based learning. How do these principles show up in how teacher candidates engage with AI?
I think in terms of that, we're looking at, if you look at the frame or the pillars that we have, the first, and it's the acronym, the adaptive and differentiated learning is our A, our I is inclusive and culturally responsive AI, our M is our multiple critical AI literacies, and our E is that experiential, ethical, and evolving AI practices. And I think the crux of it all is the fact that the learner is at the center of it all. And this is how it shows up. This is where we're seeing it really embedded and looking at the needs of our students, the needs of their students within the classroom in K-12 education. So for instance, we are starting what's called a pen to prompt. It's with Dr. Tara Lynn Sheffield and myself, and we use the AIME framework to really both design AI through the use of, we've used the company Merlin AI, and we've done it very collaboratively with directors, superintendents, literacy coaches, teachers. We've done it with different representative groups, Indigenous groups, different cultural groups, 2S LGBTQA plus communities. Everybody has come together to help co-design this tool for implementation. So it's from the design, the implementation, the execution. And this is really how it's showing up in teacher education. We're using the AIME framework to really have students co-design with and among us. We're looking at how it's embedded and rooted in community issues and cultures. We're looking at how their AI use can be very culturally sustaining, non-harmful, responsible, and instructionally meaningful. So we're seeing it through this project, for instance, the pen to prompt. We're executing it in K-6 classrooms, particularly a pilot in grade 6 classrooms, starting on Monday, actually, where it is an AI writing companion for students. So it doesn't do the work for the students, but it helps with that cognitive outsourcing in a way so that students are really able to put that cognitive load into that. And so this is an example of how it's showing up with our students. It's showing up in coursework, it's showing up in pedagogy, it's showing up in assessment, and really getting them to think deeper in terms of developing their own AI literacies. Oh, I wonder if we're frozen right here. Oh, there we go.
Sorry, got a bit of a blip there. What are the most important capabilities future educators need, not just technically, but ethically and critically when working with AI?
I think in terms of capabilities are that pedagogical judgment. Ethical reasoning is really important, that critical AI literacy. So digital literacy back in the day, I know when I used to teach in grade 8 in a classroom in the Peel Board of Education,
Yes.
about the house hippo, I think, was one of the times that we were introducing students to think critically about what they're seeing online, what they're seeing in social media. And it's gone so far beyond that right now that we need to make these really critical decisions, and to be able to connect that to real learners in real contexts. So for our teacher education program, we look at them as future educators. They need to understand the bias that's there. They need to understand the privacy, surveillance, transparency, authorship, that data that's used and collected, and done so in a very their professional responsibility in a professional way. So I think they need to know how to design with AI rather than defer to it. Seeing how they can contextualize their own understanding and learning and designing through that, in supported ways from us through differentiation, through accessibility, inclusion, and really that familiarity with that deeper fluency. So I think AIME or AIME, it frames this beyond just learning that tool, that familiarity, but able to transfer those skills and that deeper fluency where educators ask not really what AI can do, but more how can I embed it and use it and design it and frame it in a variety of learning contexts.
Brilliant. And how are the teachers doing? What's been the response in your observation? How are they doing? I know that in many school districts, they're still waiting for guiding principles, and there hasn't been a lot of direction. But you really are raising the bar and embracing AI in ethically and responsible ways.
Thank you. And we find, to take Tom Jenkins, CEO of OpenText, been working with him a little bit, and
Right.
he frames AI as moving from pitchforks to fireworks and vice versa. So you
Wow.
have people across this incredible continuum of both awareness and understanding, which are our phases of AIME, looking at how are we building our own professional knowledge and learning, to that innovation and use, and then finally to that evaluation phase. And we find that students in the Faculty of Education, they are across all of these continuums and all of these phases. And so what we're doing is we're recognizing that some of it's just them not knowing, that ignorance. Some of it is different values that they've instilled in themselves across ethical use. And what we're finding is the more that students are learning, the more that they're engaging, the more that they're part of that experiential pillar of it all, the more that they're trusting and the more that they're recognizing the benefit, and not necessarily all of those hindrances that we see in AI, but they're seeing how they can use it in really productive and responsible ways. And so we're seeing students use it responsibly with their work in terms of brainstorming and design. We're seeing, instead of the offloading of those efficiency tasks, that they're now able to deeply embed their cognitive load into the thinking part of tasks and lesson design and things, because AI is supporting as a companion as compared to doing the work for them. So we see that they're designing their own workshops, they're designing their own working groups together. They're very much involved in a lot of alternative placements that involve
Brilliant.
AI. So it's fantastic. We're loving it.
Fantastic. As you lead into your upcoming symposium, how are you hoping to extend the impact of AIME across faculties of education and the broader system?
Well, in this current symposium that we have coming up online on the 26th, this coming week, we're really hoping to extend the whole idea of that shared architecture, both from an instructional, institutional implementation as a framework, but then also as a model for personal use, and really connecting that classroom practice. We are doing this in association with social work as well. So we're seeing how, from teacher education to research to governance to policy, how it frames everything that we're doing. But really that broader goal of AIME is to remain that one faculty framework that can be reused and designed and reimagined in different ways for decision making and structure. So in the context of this particular symposium, We're looking at cross-institutional. We're working with Algoma as well as Laurier, that collaboration for knowledge mobilization, and that ongoing revision of how conferences and publications and research partnerships, as well as policy conversations can continue. Not as that isolated system, but more really this coherent, equity-centered approach to everything that we do.
Final thoughts to share, Dr. Ewert?
I think from here, we obviously need to make sure that we are looking at it for AI and AI use from a very multifaceted lens so that we're understanding the good, the bad, and the ugly, and the benefits. And I think once we have a really firm idea about that, we're looking at, okay, whose voices are missing? Who are we still leaving out of that conversation? And what can we do to mitigate those challenges from an AI perspective?
Dr. Ewert, thank you for sharing your leadership and important work you and Dr. Mueller are advancing through the AIME project. What's clear is that preparing future educators for AI requires more than technical skills. It requires deep alignment with pedagogy, ethics, and equity. As for those listening, I encourage you to check out the Symposium on Teaching and Learning in the Age of AI, March 26th. It's a fantastic opportunity to connect, learn, and explore practical strategies around AI education, mental health, and with a community of educators and innovators. At C21 Canada, we're proud to support this work through the Dell C21 AI use case project to highlight models that are driving meaningful system-level change. My name is Robert Merglanchi of C21 Canada. Thank you for joining us today. And until next time, stay healthy, stay safe, and keep the learning curve steep.